Hello and welcome to our first video in our series 4 harvests on Pear Mountain, which refers to the Lishan region of Taiwan. Now, I'm always, as I said before, a very completist kind of person. I like to have the full set of something. And so one of the reasons for reviewing this tea is because I managed to get what feels like a complete set. It's 4 harvests across a year from the same region in Taiwan. I'm also very interested because it allows us to check the differences that come from seasonality. All of these teas are grown at the same altitude. It's 2,000 meters and all to the same standard. They're all organic. So some of the finer details, even the fine variables can be ironed out with these teas. I've still got the 4 teas in front of me and I'm going to do that for each video. But the one that we're looking at today is from Pick Pear Mountain. And this is, incidentally, it's a 25-gram package in this case. Some of these are 25, some of these are 50 grams. They're all from the same cultivar, the Qingxin. So this, despite being a mini-series, the playlist is still the Qingxin files. And the date of production for this was January the 10th of last year, 2025, which means as of recording, that's over a year ago. So it'd be interesting to see whether there is a Pick 2026 and Mountain Stream teas available soon. All of these teas, incidentally, are from Mountain Stream teas as well. One of the other things that makes this stand out is that in many instances, a vendor will give you 2 harvests, usually the 2 standout ones, which would be spring and winter, and summer or fall harvests are often left to one side. However, in this instance, not only do we have one of those slightly rarer fall harvests to review, we've also got one which is even rarer, which is the Pick. This is tea that's harvested just as the temperature's dropping. There are frosts, especially at that kind of altitude, and the tea plants are becoming dormant, and so the leaves are being picked at that point. So what we've got is a complete series, and we've got 2 of which at least are very distinctive, and the one that we're starting with today is perhaps the most distinctive of all. So before we go on to look at the tea itself, I'm just going to point out 1 or 2 other details. The oxidation level for this is 25%, so it's slightly higher than a Baozhong, but it's lower than even some of the other green oolongs. So I'll be very interested to see the difference that makes. And also, if you are interested in this, the Mountain Stream Tea's website, although it's sold out, it can give you more information on the flavor profile and so on and so forth. So this has been a very long introductory one, and the other 3 won't be anywhere near as long, but that is Pick Pear Mountain Oolong. We're now going to take a look at the packaging, and then we're going to take a look at the tea inside, and then we'll review it. See you soon. Hello again. We're looking at the packaging for our Pick Pear Mountain Oolong. This is a 10-gram sample package, and hopefully because of that it's slightly flatter, even though it's vacuum packed, and the writing is a bit more legible. Just to go through what we're told here, it's 10 grams, the region is Lishan, Nantou County, the cultivar is Qingxin, the method for all of these is hand-picked, small batch, processed on site, the production date is January the 10th, 2025, and the tasting notes are rich floral vegetal, sweet vegetable soup, lingering aftertaste. Now, with respect to the brewing notes, the parameters don't vary a great deal. The amount of tea recommended is between 3 to 5 grams per 100 mils. Other than that, everything else remains the same. I'm just looking off camera here at the other 3 teas to remind myself, and 2 of them, the snow and the fall, both talk about 3 to 5 grams, and the others all recommend 5 grams of tea. So there's a distinction there. Other than that, let's move on to look at the tea, and then we will review it. See you in a mo. Hello again. now we're going to move on to take a look at the tea leaves themselves. As a word of explanation, what you're about to see, this whole sequence of looking at the leaves, is repeated across all 4 videos. What I've done is I've set up samples of the leaves for each of the 4 oolongs, the 4 specimens from the 4 harvests, on a lazy Susan, and we'll just look at them consecutively. So let's start with our snow pick. The smell of the leaves is very intense. It's a sort of dry herb smell mixed with fruit and a kind of hint of a fruit ester. The leaves themselves are pretty uniform. They are, I would say, an emerald green colour. The stalks are pretty prominent. They're fairly uniform in colour and in size. And although there were some small fragmentary pieces, I would say on average these beads are between 3 to 5 millimeters. So let's move on to our next one, which is the Spring Pear Mountain. Sorry if this makes anybody feel a bit like they want to merry-go-round themselves. So here we are with the Spring Pear Mountain. Now the smell of these leaves is something much more mellow. It's, I would say, a cross between grass and citrus. Now these leaves probably aren't showing very well, and that's just because they are pretty dark. There are some paler aspects. I can see a wee bit of pale there and there and there, but that's only as pale as a previous tea. This is much more, this is what I suppose you would call a forest green colour. And although there are some outliers here, I would say these beads are at the very least the same size as for the snow pig, if not larger. So you're looking at, I would say, 4 millimeters upwards. So let's move on to the fall sample. Right, I'm going to need to move that a little so you can see it better. Now the smell of this tea, it's quite mild and it's mellow. It's definitely more fruity than sort of herbal. The tea inside is, I would say, very reminiscent of the spring, except that these beads are much bigger. Even the outliers like this one are probably half a centimeter. Some of these are knocking on a centimeter in size. So, and the stalks are also very prominent as in the snow pick. So you're dealing with much, much bigger tea beads in this instance, and perhaps that tells us something about the growing conditions as well. So let's move on to our final one and our Winter Pear Mountain harvest. Now, have I got this in the right spot? That's not bad. So, the smell of the leaves. That's the mildest of them all. Something slightly citrusy, very slight, very sort of dried fruit. Let me move this down a wee bit so it's easier to see. In fact, let's turn it as well. These beads are about the same size as the spring pick. They're pretty uniform, I would say. Some smaller aspects, on average, are about 3 to 4 mil. The stalks, some of the stalks are prominent, but certainly not as much as some of the other ones. The colour is fairly uniform. Actually, I say that on close reflection, now moving to the light, I would say the colour for these ones is half forest green, half emerald green. So, hopefully you've been able to see how the 4 harvests are exemplified or represented in the shape and the coloration of the beads themselves, of the tea leaves. So, let's move on to reviewing our tea. See you in a moment. Hello and welcome to the final part of our video where we are going to review our Snow Pick Oolong from Pear Mountain, from Mountain Stream Teas. Now, I brewed the tea Western style. That's 3 grams of tea, 250 mils of water at 100 degrees centigrade. That's their recommendation, or within their parameters, for a 1-minute steeping. And then for the Gongfu, we're going to go for 50 mils at a time. and we're going to go for 3 grams of tea at a time. And what I'm going to do is maybe bring that down just 5 degrees. I think because I'm still not very experienced with tea, that if I use too much temperature, if the temperature's too high, there's too much tea, I can't really taste everything that's going on. So that's down to 95. So first of all, this is our Western. There's a good strong greeny yellow colour scheme to that. Not gold as such, just yellowy green. There is a vegetable, cooked kind of vegetable note, but very sweet for that. Let's see what that's like on the cup. The same, that strong, not astringent, cooked vegetable quality. But very light with it. Very green. I need to put more in the cup to really... Cooked vegetable, it's light, it's fresh, it's green. Flavours dropping off slightly. I would have suggested a longer steep, but of course this is only the first steeping. So not much in the way of fruit, but it's fresh and it's green and there's a cooked vegetable quality to it. So we're at 95 degrees now for our Gongfu. Here is our tea. Incidentally, that's 3 grams of tea. Compared to some of them, you can see how big these beads are. You don't get a great deal of them for a particular weight, for 3 grams, should I say. So into our Gaiwan. And we're going to give our first steep quite a little while, just so that the beads can begin to rehydrate, to get some heat and water into them. So 50 mils at a time. And we're going to give this... We're going to say 30 seconds. Now I am going to use my stopwatch for that. We'll count that down as 25 seconds. But for this first one, we're going to go for 30 seconds, adjusted, that is. And the following steepings perhaps they can be shorter, perhaps they can be longer. It all depends on the tea itself. So we're coming up to our 30 seconds. This is our first steep at 95. I can already say that's quite a vibrant colour, and the leaves, wow. There's definitely that kind of cooked vegetable quality to the leaves with some freshness. That's really quite nice. They're already starting to unfurl. There's almost a kind of a spicy quality to that, something like a nutmeg. Interesting. So, colour, that's really intense. That's 30 seconds. Shows you how much colour and ideally flavour is coming out of those leaves. There you go, that's the right colour. It's a vibrant lemon yellow, I couldn't even say that, yellow lemon with a bit of green thrown in. On the nose, really not a great deal just yet. A bit of vegetable, and that's pretty much all I could tell you for the moment. Let's see what it's like on the cup. Bearing in mind this is only the first steep. There's a bit more sweetness coming through on the cup. Maybe it needed something to be able, or just closer to it, I don't know. That's got a sort of a, if I say vegetable soup, I mean that combination of vegetable and sweet and savoury that you would get in a vegetable soup. I don't mean it's just cooked veg. I don't mean that at all. It's got the sort of richness and smoothness of a kind of a broth or a vegetable soup. With some freshness. Funnily enough, with it being a snow pick, I don't know if I was expecting great galumphing sweetness to it, or freshness. That sort of semi-sweet, semi-savoury vegetable quality you would get from a vegetable broth. Really interesting. Now we're going to drop this down. Oh, at least I'm going to start at 20 seconds and then I'll keep an eye on the tea after that. I don't have to worry about each of these 4 teas getting exactly the same Gongfu parameters. We're going to play it by ear because we're not directly trying to review them. We're trying to see the difference across the year. So let's reset that. And then we'll just see what kind of time we've got. Get that back up to 50. Those leaves are very nearly in steep. They're huge. Might need to put more water in just to get it to 50, I think. So let's see where we get to with 25 to start with. Actually, no, do you know what? We're going to take that up to 30 again. Maybe, no. I don't know why I'm being so bold. We're going to go for 35. See what that gets us. So this is 35. On the lid. That same sweet and savoury combination. Very smooth. No sort of knees and elbows to that. Colour-wise, wow, look at that. That's even more yellow. Still with a bit of green thrown in, that's even more yellow than the last one. Ah, there's more smell to this. Definitely the savouriness of cooked vegetable. A little bit of sweet. I wouldn't have said fresh or floral or fruity, but sweet and vegetal. Let's see what that is like. Just sweetness on the cup with the veg. That's picking up in body. Flavours lingering. Now we're getting into mouthfeel as much as flavour. It's still that brothy kind of taste, but much more satisfying in terms of mouthfeel. Do you know, it's almost... It reminds me of, if you've watched the previous video, Kancha, which is a sort of winter tea from Japan. It's the same kind of quality. It's amazing how satisfying it is. That's very, very satisfying. So let's be careful. Let's take a look at those leaves. You can see just how expanded they are now, how rehydrated. In fact, let's take one of them out and take a quick look. Oh, that's... The leaves themselves aren't too big, but there's plenty of... Let's try a different one, see if that's more representative. Ah, there we go. Yeah. Yeah, look at those. Look at the size of... look at the size of that leaf. That's a lot bigger. Let me do it that way. Yeah. Okay. That one's even bigger still. So, rather than doing botany, let's pump this up to at least 45 and see where that gets us. I'm having to add more water, or what looks like more water, just to get it to what I think will be 50, because the leaves are filling up so much of the gaiwan. So I'm going to push this to 45. The flavour is dropping off slightly, but that vegetal richness is still there. As I say, it really does remind me of a kancha or one of those bancha farmer teas that hasn't been roasted. Very, very satisfying. So we're coming up to 45. Let's see where this takes us. So this one is 45. Perhaps not enough more to really get the edge. That colour is still really intense. It's perhaps more green than yellow now, but still almost luminous. Some freshness creeping in. Still vegetable quality, less brothy, but some veg. Let's see what it's like on the cup. Yeah, there's more of there's a bit of zing creeping in now. Mm. Oh, wow. That's got a bit of spring vegetable quality to it, by which I mean it's vegetal, it's soupy, but it's a bit lighter and it's a bit sweeter. That's changed quite a bit. It's moved from a sort of bold cancha style vegetable quality, quite rich, to something a bit lighter. Mm. That's very different. So we're going to push that one more time. Let's see what somewhere between 50 and 55 gets us. Plenty of water in the gaiwan just to fill that up. And let me finish this mouthful. Mm. That change is very interesting. It's gone, as I say, it's gone from being something that's just a big blast of vegetable, not vegetal, but just vegetable quality. And that's changed to something a bit lighter, a bit fresher. That's really, really interesting. So I think we will push this all the way to 50, maybe up to 55. Let's play it dangerously. We're still well within the parameters from Mountain Stream Tea, so let's go for 55. It's not like us, but let's play with fire. So let's see where 55 gets us. The sweetness has dropped off, but we've still got that sort of vegetable quality. As you can see, the leaves are well and truly hydrated now. The colour is still extraordinary. That colour doesn't seem to be dropping off. There's more green again, but it's not dropping off in its intensity. Still vegetable. Still sweet. It's almost like peas, I would say. A lot lighter on the cup. It's still that sort of heavy vegetable broth, cancha meets something much lighter, all mixed in together. That's absolutely fantastic. I haven't come across anything that's done quite that before. Whether that's the terroir, whether that's the harvest, we will have to wait and see. Really interesting. Okay, what can we say? Well, this is not a review in the straightforward points out of 3 category, because we're comparing comparing teas from the same terroir, just different harvest in the same year. So, and of course by this point, something like the Snowbake, whatever was available, who knows when the next one will be out. So, very different to something I've tried before. As I say, much more like a cancha with that vegetable quality. There's no astringency, and there's no bitterness of cooked vegetables or anything like that. Just a vegetable, brothy, loads of mouthfeel. There's no knees and elbows, but except for those last 2 steepings, it wasn't exactly delicate, but it was starting to become that way. Absolutely wonderful and really, really interesting. I'm going to finish this. I am doing all 4 teas, one after the other. And it's not my intention to drink tea from all of them, but I'm not missing out on this. Otherwise, I really will be doing that. So, the Western one, it wasn't bad, but you're going to have to steep that a few more times to bring out its better qualities. This one, really, really interesting. Hearty on the vegetable front, smooth, becoming lighter still. Anyway, that's enough from me. I am looking forward, assuming that it might be available, to a 2026 snow pick. And of course, in my own time and on the channel, we're going to be looking at more teas from Pear Mountain from Lishan. In fact, the next mini-series is going to be in one more specific region of Lishan, and it's going to be for styles of tea. Different times of year as well, but it's different styles of tea rather than just the different harvests. So, I hope that's been interesting. I really enjoyed that tea and I've learnt a lot. And it remains for me only to say happy steeping and God bless.